right. Let's find our way to our mats. Coming into Tadasana pose, rocking forward and back on the feet a few times, feeling the arches of the feet. And just let the feet settle into place. Let's let our arms just hang at our sides, closing the eyes. Let's soften the eyes. Soften the eyes as if you're looking at something really beautiful, like an entire landscape filled with spring flowers. And just notice how you are in this moment, how you're showing up for practice today, in what state of being, what state of mind. And we'll begin some Ujjayi breaths, drawing some nice fresh breaths into the space around the heart, releasing them with the exhale. In the same way, we might open a window when the weather starts to warm up and let the spring breeze just flow through the house. And just let the breath come and go, making it a little deeper than normal. And let's keep these deeper breaths flowing through. Let the eyes softly open. On an in-breath, let's reach the arms out and up, pressing the palms together. And as we exhale, let's draw the hands to the heart center. Let's do this several times. As we continue these deep flowing breaths, let's begin to bend the knees on the exhale, just dropping into a high chair pose. And as we inhale, let's push into the ground and reach the arms up to the sky. So the whole body is involved in this breath. Let's take one more full breath like this. Meeting up in our chair pose, holding that pose as we bring the arms out into a goalpost position. As we exhale, let's lower the fingertips toward the mat, keeping the elbows steady. And on the inhale, lift the fingertips to the sky. And let's take a few breaths that way. Warming up the rotator cuffs. Maybe sitting a little deeper. Oh. Maybe creaking a little lower here in our scarecrow pose. On our next breath in, let's push into the ground. Let's spread our wings, reaching up and exhaling the hands to the heart center. From here, let's bring the hands to cup the kneecaps. The feet can stay together, or we can bring them hip distance apart. Let's take a few breaths in a standing cat-cow. So we'll inhale, draw the heart forward and the tailbone back, and exhale, letting the back round. Then finding our way to a neutral spine, let's push upward once again, reaching out and up, and exhaling to draw the hands to the heart center. Then we can have the feet come together again if they're apart, or just be slightly apart. And let's bring the palms forward so we can press the palms together. Let's bend the knees, coming back into our chair pose, and really push into the palms. This will be our exhale. As we inhale, let's open the arms out wide. We can rise further up in our pose. And exhale, drop down, pushing the palms together. Let's take several breaths just like this. Opening up through the heart, pushing the hands together to activate the upper back. If you want to warm up even more through the legs, feel free to drop a little bit lower and stay low instead of coming up all the way. Or you can stay high and just drop a little bit down. Choose whatever feels best for your body today. The next time we sit into our pose and the palms come together, let's stay there and let's interlace the fingers, clasping the hands together and start to pull the hands apart energetically. We'll feel that as an openness in the upper back. Let's take a couple more breaths right into that space. Then let's sit just a little bit deeper. And on the inhale, release, reach the arms up. Let's come all the way up. And exhale the hands to the heart center. With our next breath in, let's reach to the sky. Hands to the knees on the exhale. Take an inhale here. On the exhale, bring the forearms to the thighs. And let's take a couple of breaths in the supported forward fold. We'll reach the sits bones back. Let the shoulders soften. And then if we want to take this lower, we can release the fingertips down to the mat. Maybe giving the head a little shake while we're here. On our next inhale, let's bring the hands to the knees. Exhale here. As we breathe in, let's push all the way up, reaching the arms to the sky. And exhale the hands to the heart center. Let's do that little vinyasa again. Reaching up. Exhaling, hands to the knees. Inhale for length and space. And exhale, forearms onto the thighs. Let the head drop down. Again, we'll take a few breaths in our forward fold, finding a good level for you. If you want to go deeper, great. If you want to stay put, great. Let's take one more exhale. On an inhale, let's bring the hands to the kneecaps. Exhale here. And let's inhale all the way up. And exhale, hands to the heart. Let's flow through this movement pattern, inhaling to lift. Hands to the knees on the exhale. Inhale here. And exhale into your fold, finding whatever depth you want to be at. Taking a full breath while you're there. And on the inhale, bringing the hands back to the knees. Exhaling here, pushing the rest of the way up on the inhale. And exhaling, hands to the heart. Let's continue. If you're feeling warmed up and you just want to come all the way down, that's fine too. Let's flow through this sequence one more time. Taking our time to move in and out of a forward fold with as many stops along the way as feels good to your body. And we'll meet up in our standing pose with the hands at the heart center. When you get there, keep the palms pressing together. Let's put a micro bend in the knees and really press into the palms as you drop the shoulders down the back. Draw the core muscles slightly in, and let's gently push one shoulder back and then the other. Breathing deep. And let both shoulders settle down the back. Let's inhale and reach up to the sky. Forward fold on the exhale. Let's lengthen here and then bring the palms to the earth. Let's walk our way back either into a downward facing dog, or we can come into a dolphin pose with the forearms on the mat. And let's take just a few breaths, stretching out either in dolphin or downward dog, letting those deep breaths flow through. And little by little, let's walk the feet toward the hands or the hands toward the feet, coming into our forward fold. Let's hang there for just a moment, giving the head a little shake. Then let's roll up one vertebrae at a time, letting the head and neck come up last. Once we're standing, let's inhale and reach the arms up and exhale the hands to the heart center. Then let's release the arms to our sides. Let's look over the left shoulder, take a deep breath in. And as we exhale, let's roll down that left side, bending the knees a little bit until we're folding over the left side. Let's bring the fingertips to the mat. Let the head hang, pull the hips away to the right. Then let's recenter the hips and softly roll up that left side. Head and neck come up last. Once we've risen up, let's roll both shoulders back. Then let's look over the right shoulder. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Just melt down this right side, vertebrae by vertebrae. Bending the knees as much as we need to so that the fingertips can come to the mat. Give your head a little shake over here. And start to pull the hips away to the left. Breathing deep into that left side. Then let's recenter the hips. Softly roll up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Head and neck come up last of all. Once we've risen up, let's once again roll those shoulders back a few times. And let the shoulders settle down the back. Let's bring our hands to our hips, bringing our weight onto our left foot. If you've got something to place your hand on for balance, please feel free to do that. And we'll turn our right foot out, touching that right big toe down on the mat. We might just stay here for a tree pose with the big toe on the mat, or bring the foot higher up. Wherever our foot position is feeling right today, let's push into the sole of the foot and push back through the standing leg. So there's some isometric work going on and some hugging to the center line with both limbs. We can keep the hands here. We could bring them to heart, or we could reach them up. Wherever the hands are positioned, let's energetically reach upward through the crown of the head as we push down through the sole of the left foot. Let's take another inhale. And on the exhale, bring everything back to center, coming back to Tadasana, and let's walk out the feet. And returning the hands to the hips, let's bring our weight onto our right foot. Turning that left hip open, we'll be on the big toe for starters. This side, I immediately want to get sassy. So bring your hip to center if you do that too. And we'll either leave the big toe down or bring the foot up. Finding whatever arm position feels right. We can keep a hand on a support, reach the other one up, or reach both arms up. Either way, we want to lift tall through the crown of the head, pushing into the midline through the gesture foot and the standing leg, reaching down to the center of the earth through the sole of that right foot. Let's take one more inhale. And on the exhale, bring everything back to center, treading out through the feet. Nice. With our next breath in, let's reach the arms to the sky. Forward fold on the exhale. Take a full breath in. Exhale, fold a little deeper. Let's return to a downward facing dog or a dolphin pose. Walking our way out there. And let's bring the feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart. Let's bend the right knee and reach the hips away slightly to the left. Let the head drop. And sway the hips back to center. Bend the left knee a little bit. Sway the hips over to the right side. And coming back to center, let's gently bring the knees down to the mat. And let's do cat-cow from here. This is also perfectly fine to do on the forearms. We'll inhale and arch the back, and exhale, round. Then coming back to a neutral spine. Since we've got a blanket or a towel today, let's place it under the right knee. So we have it, we might as well use it for a little extra padding. And again, here the forearms can be on blocks if this bothers your wrists at all. But we'll place our right knee on the blanket, lifting the left knee so it hovers off to the side. And let's bring the knee out to the side a little bit so the knee and the ankle are on the same plane. Then let's draw the knee forward toward the left elbow and then back, like we're reaching the heel back to the opposite glute. And let's do this movement a few times to warm up the hip. Inhaling forward and exhaling back. One more time. Then let's take that knee down. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see me. And we'll reach that left foot out to the left so we can come into a gate latch pose. So we'll lift up into a high kneeling position over that right knee. Left leg is extended. Let's take our right arm, inhale, reach it up, and exhale, lean to the left. Breathing deep into that right side. And with our inhale, let's reach straight up. Exhale, release it down. And let's come onto our hands and knees, putting the blanket now under our left knee. Once we find our alignment there, let's unweight that right knee. We'll lift it up so the knee and ankle stay at the same height. Then inhale that right knee forward toward the right elbow. Exhale, reach the heel back around toward the opposite glute. Moving with the breath, forward and back. One more time. And let's bring that knee down. And we'll stretch it straight out to the side so the sole of the foot is off the mat. And let's rise up above that left knee into a high kneeling position. Inhale, reach that left arm up to the sky. And exhale, lean toward the right. Breathing deep into that left side. Then with an inhale, let's reach straight up. And exhale, release down, returning to our tabletop. We can spread out the blanket and place it beneath both knees if you like, or just take it out of the way. And we'll do a little side bend. So let's turn and look toward our left hip. Take a deep breath in. Exhale back to center. Inhale the other way. Exhale, center. Back and forth. Once more to each side. Then coming back to center, let's curl the toes. We're going to push up into a forward fold. And from our forward fold, let's roll up one vertebrae at a time until we're all the way standing. Once we get there, let's inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale the hands to the heart. Let's take our palms out in front. We're going to come into Charlie's Angels pose. Interlace the fingers, but leave the index fingers out. So we've got our weapons of choice here. Then let's sit into a high chair pose, hug the knees together. Roll the shoulders down the back. Draw the tailbone under a little bit. As we exhale, we're going to twist the upper body to one side. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist the other way. Inhale, center. Back and forth. You can sit a little deeper if you want to work a little harder. You can rise up a little bit. Up to you. Let's do one more to each side. Beautiful angels. You're all hired. On an inhale, let's push up, reach up. And exhale, hands to the heart center. Let's bring the hands back onto the hips, returning to tree pose. So we'll root down through the right foot, opening out through that left hip, which should feel a little more open. Finding a good spot for that foot. Maybe branching out a little bit. Whatever height we bring that foot, let's push it into the standing leg. And whatever variation you did with the arms last time, let's change it up a little bit. Still fine to have one hand on a balancing prop. We could do a mudra with the other arm and reach it up. We could bring it to the heart center. We could take both arms up. Let's lift through the crown and push down through the right leg. Beautiful. One more inhale. Exhale, bring it down. Back to center, walk out the feet. Other side, we'll root through that left foot. Finding a good spot for the right foot. Keeping the hips in line. And finding a great arm position. We could also do saguaro cactus arms. Dropping the shoulder blades down the back. Whatever feels enlivening and fun in this pose. Stand tall, sending those strong roots deep down into the ground. Let's take one more inhale. Exhale, come on down. Hands to the heart, walk the feet out. Let's bring the feet wide on the mat. Feel free to turn so that you can use the sticky mat. And we'll come into a wide V shape with the legs. Toes are pointed either straight ahead or slightly in. Let's inhale and reach up. Bend the knees as you exhale and bring the hands to the heart. Push into the feet as you rise, reaching up. Drop in, push the palms together as you lower down. Let's take a couple more breaths just like this. Evenly weighting through both feet, evenly pushing both palms together. The next time we drop into our pose, let's stay there breathing, hugging both legs in toward the center line. Let's reach the arms forward, coming back into our Charlie's Angels pose. Draw the core muscles in. We're going to twist to one side and hold, rooting down through the tailbone. Take one more exhale. On the inhale, come back to center. Exhale, twist the other way. Keep your weight centered over the hips. Use the breath to twist just a little farther. Inhale, center. Exhale, release the arms. Inhale, rise up. And exhale, hands to the heart center. Let's bring the hands to the hips. Toe heel the feet back together again. So here's where we probably will want to hold on to a balance prop if you've got one handy. It's nice in the studio, we've got our built-in bar, but the back of a chair or sofa will be just fine. We're going to come into bush pose. It's a variant on tree pose. So let's root down through our right foot. We'll bring that left foot up and we'll start to bend the right knee a little bit so we can place that left ankle just above the knee. We often do this as a stretch, laying on the back. Standing up, it's a little more challenging for the quads. So we'll sit back, letting that hip open, and we can either cling to the prop with all our might for support, or just rest our hand lightly on it. And maybe that left arm comes up. As we reach away, either just through the crown of the head or through those left fingertips, think about reaching away with the upper body as the tailbone reaches the other direction. So we're getting longer and taller through the spine. Let's take one more exhale. On the inhale, soften, come on back up, breathe, release, walk out the feet. And let's do the other side. So we'll bring our weight onto our left foot, bending that left knee a little bit. We'll take this right ankle up above the knee and start to sit back a little or a lot. Oh, this side's easier for some reason. Not for you. We'll likely have a side that's easier. We want to keep the knee in line with the ankle and hip. The right toes now are pointed toward the right knee. And we may keep the right arm down or reach with it. So fingertips reaching one direction, tailbone reaching the other direction. Breathe nice and deep. The lower we sit, the deeper we'll feel a stretch in that right outer glute. One more exhale. On the inhale, let's come up. And exhale, release. Let's just walk out the feet for a moment, treading in place. And we'll do one more variation. We've done some beautiful tree poses. We've done our bush pose. You can choose either of these. But let's balance on our right foot and come into the pose with our left leg being the gesture leg. If you did bush pose, if you're choosing that, maybe experiment without using the balance support and reaching both arms up. Another variation with or without support, I'm going to use support, is to reach the hips further back and reach the fingertips further forward. Still, we want to keep that right knee and ankle in line and breathe nice and deep. In the next couple breaths, Let's make our way out of this side. Pausing for a moment in Tadasana, maybe walking the feet out before we go to the second side. And choosing whatever variation you like, tree or bush pose. And just playing around with it. So keep the breath nice and deep. Reaching in those opposite directions. Rooting down through the standing foot. Reaching up through the crown. The most important element is always the breath. And let's press our way up. Releasing, walking out the feet. And since that's a lot of work for the quads and we're standing here, we've got a balancing prop. Let's just stretch out the quads a little bit. Bringing our weight onto our right foot. Let's pick that left foot up. Find the top of that foot and just let that left knee drop down, hugging that left heel in close to the glute and finding a release through the quads. Let the tailbone soften. The lower back is very relaxed here. 2 more breaths. And release. Other side. Soften the eyes, soften the shoulders. Return to the breath, letting the tailbone just release. Lower back soft. And release. So I'm going to give a couple of options here. Let's have our block and our blanket handy near the mat, and we'll return to our mat. Let's come on to hands and knees first and just stretch this out a little bit. So from hands and knees, when we get down there, we'll activate the tips of the fingers. There's not a lot of weight in the wrists. And then let's reach the hips back toward child's pose, like we're trying to touch the wall behind us with the tailbone. On the inhale, let's scoop forward, reaching the collarbones forward, lifting the heart. And on the exhale, round a little bit, but reach back slowly, slowly, keeping a lot of energy in the tips of the fingers. So stretch out through the back. Let's do this a couple more times. Inhaling to rise up. Exhaling, reaching back, taking our time like molasses. Nice and slow, feeling more and more space between the vertebrae. Feeling the back getting nice and long and stretched out. One more time. And as we rise up to tabletop, feel free to take a puppy pose or a child's pose. If you're craving a downward dog or a dolphin, we can come up a little higher. Let's take 5 or 6 breaths in any of these poses. Downward dog, dolphin, child's pose, puppy pose. Breathing deep in whichever pose you're choosing. And let's meet up just in a resting position. And I'm going to give our options for our hip opener. The reason I wanted these props is that there's a really nice variation on pigeon pose that we can do with the props. If you know that you don't like pigeon pose, I don't always do it, and I don't usually do it without props. There's another variation that you can do. So if you already know it's hard on your knees or your hips, instead of our pigeon pose, you can come down into our figure 4 pose, which is just like bush pose, exact same pose, different relation to gravity. It's also exactly the same as pigeon, you just don't have the weight of your whole body on your hip. So please feel free to take that. And if you're going to do pigeon, I'm going to recommend bringing your blanket to the left side of the mat, so your left knee can be on that, and bringing your block forward, and that's going to be under your front thigh. So I'm going to come into this pose from a downward dog, taking my right leg back, and then bringing it forward so I can place my thigh on the block. That takes all the pressure and weight out of the knee, the front knee. And the back knee is supported by the blanket. So we can be in pigeon in this pose. And obviously we're live, so if you have questions about coming into it, I can guide you through. If you try it out and realize immediately, this isn't for me today, come onto your back. I've had knee injuries from a couple different things completely unrelated to yoga. And for years I didn't do pigeon because it didn't agree with my knees. I always did the variation resting on your back. So don't be shy about that at all, please. The closer in you bring the front foot to your groin, the less pressure there will be on your hip. So if you're feeling a lot of pressure that you don't want on your hip, bring that front leg in closer. If you're not feeling much of anything, you can push that foot forward a little more, and you should feel a lot more in that front hip. And let's soften into whichever variation you're choosing. Soften the heart, soften the eyes, the jaw. Soften that space between the shoulder blades. And let's take some nice long exhales here. Let's take 3 or 4 more breaths on this side. And deepening the breath, we'll start to walk the hands back into center, putting a little bit of weight on the hands, just enough to bring that foot out. Let's come into tabletop. And from tabletop, let's take our right leg out to the right. So we're returning to our gate latch pose. Rising up onto that left knee. Let's inhale the left arm up. And exhale, lean to the right toward the extended leg. And just soften, release. We'll bring that arm down, returning to our tabletop. And setting up for side 2. Of course, if you're doing the variation on your back, it's easy to just go to the other side. And we can again come into the pose from our downward dog. or any way that's intuitive for your body. We'll bring that left foot forward and rest the thigh on the block. Keep creeping further and further forward on my mat. No, creep out of sight, just like the little inchworm. Let's find the right angle on the second side, knowing that our hips are not, they were not mass produced. Each hip is absolutely unique, even from the left and right side of your own body. So there's no expectation that this is going to look the same on this side. And find a variation that's a little bit of a stretch, but not too much, just the right amount of challenge. And soften around it with the breath, softening the heart, the eyes. If you're doing the variation where your hands are in front of you and your heart is toward the earth, it's nice to turn the palms up. It's a nice gesture of surrender in this pose. And direct the breath to wherever you are feeling the most sensation. We'll take 4 or 5 more breaths here. And seeing if another layer of holding will gently drop away. And deepening the breath. Let's bring some weight back onto the hands. If you're already resting on your back, you don't need to get up and join us for gate latch. I should have said that before, but we'll bring the weight onto the hands, enough to release that bent leg. Returning to tabletop for a moment. And from tabletop, stretching that left leg out to the left. Coming up onto that right knee, taking all the time in the world. Let's inhale the right arm up. And exhale, lean to the left. Breathing here, opening up some space between those right ribs. And then just soften, melt out of the pose, release. And let's take our blanket or our towel, whatever we've got for a prop. We're going to make another prop with it that we'll use in a moment. So if you have a yoga blanket, you can start it in a square and then fold it in half again the long way, so it's like a narrow bolster. And of course, if you've got a towel, like a nice fluffy bath towel, just find something about this wide, and we'll set it aside for a moment so that it's handy. And let's come on to our backs. Coming down onto our back on the mat. Let's reach both arms out wide to either side. Walk the feet out to the narrow edges of the mat and just gently tip and sway the knees from side to side. Finding the right distance away for your feet. You can go fast or slow as the spirit moves you. Breathing nice and deep. The next time the knees tip to one side, just pause there, breathing. And gently sway the knees across to the other side. And pause there, breathing. And let's gently rock back to center, recentering the hips, bringing the feet closer in again. Let's take one leg up and just flex that ankle forward and back. And then switch feet. And then either switch feet again or bring both feet up. And we'll flex the feet and circle the ankles, either one at a time or both together. Then bringing the feet down, let's bring the arms up and just flex through the fingers. Open and close the hands a couple times. And let's let the arms release. Let's locate our blanket again. And we'll roll up to seated just for a moment so we can position that. So we're going to place this right down the center line so it can be right under the back. And we want it to be about where the floating ribs begin, or the lowest ribs on the back. So it's not under the whole back. I'm going to find those ribs and then nestle into the blanket. So we want the blanket or the towel on the middle to the upper back. And we want it to fall right between the shoulder blades. It might be slightly wider than that, and that is okay. And let's let the arms release to our sides, palms turned up. We've done a lot of hip openers, but if you're craving just one more, you can always bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees drop out to each side. If that feels great to your body, you can take a few breaths like that before stretching the legs out. And I'll leave that timing up to you. But let's bring the neck and head to neutral place. If we've got a long enough blanket, we can always scrunch it up a little bit so you feel like you've got a really nice supportive pillow for your head. And let the palms turn up and the shoulders drop down. I'm feeling ready to stretch my legs out, so I'm going to do that. And just listen to your own body for you to know when to do that. And let's consciously take some deeper inhales, filling the entire volume of the lungs just very softly and gently. Pausing for a moment and then letting the breath release away. one of the gifts that my son got for his 8th birthday on Saturday. He received a little toy helicopter that actually flies. It's quite amazing. I really was very skeptical about it, but it's so fun to watch it flying. But it's very hard to control. It's because it's so exciting to see the helicopter zip up. I mean, it's just little, it's a little toy. You see it going up to the sky and you get very excited. And then you don't want it to go too high, so you drop it down. It's hard when you're 8 not to crash the helicopter many, many times. The same way we want the smooth rise and fall right here with the breath. Imagine you're flying your own little helicopter, maybe around Hawaii or someplace super beautiful. And we're just looking for that smooth rise and fall of the breath. We want the breath to be full, supportive, but smooth and steady. As you fill the lungs slowly all the way full, consider pausing for a moment or two at the top of the breath just to take in the beauty before you let the breath release. Whenever you're feeling ready, just let the breath go. So you're just effortlessly gliding along with the breath, letting the breath do whatever it wants to do. And allow the mind to be equally free. If the mind drops back into one of its favorite preoccupations, just remind it that this is time for free floating. We're not going to attach to any thoughts right now. And you're welcome to leave the blanket where it is or take it out, whatever feels better for you. And we'll float effortlessly into Shavasana. Let's bring the awareness back to the breath. Wiggling the fingers and the toes. Taking time to stretch and move in any way that feels good. Imagine if we took each inhale and exhale with the same wonder and excitement as watching that little toy helicopter rise and fall. Let's bring that same aliveness with us as we roll to one side and press our way up to a centered seat. Feel free to sit on your blanket. And as you find your way into your centered seat, just let the eyes close. Bring the hands together at the heart center, softening through the shoulders, bowing the head to the wonder and miracle of the heart, feeling the aliveness of the whole body. May the benefits of your practice stay with you throughout the day and radiate outward to everyone whose lives we touch. Thank you all so much for sharing your day. Namaste.
Okay.